What's up everyone, welcome back to more Reddit stories about entitled people, crazy people, and anything else we find interesting. And as usual, we got some more Reddit posts to check out today. So be sure to share your thoughts about today's stories down in the comments and let's get into it. Am I the a-hole for trying to drive people away from the bar below my apartment? I live on the second floor of a building in a large West Coast city. I have lived in this apartment for 8 years, and most of my neighbors have been there 10 plus years. The street level of my building houses shops, 2 restaurants, a bakery, and a tattoo parlor. It's a pretty quiet street, and all the street level businesses close up between 9 to 10 p.m. Up until about 8 to 9-ish months ago, the restaurant directly below me was a sushi place since way before I moved in. They have a patio with 7 to 8 tables that juts out onto the sidewalk. I was a regular there and was super bummed when it closed. It was the owners finally retiring and moving to be closer to their grandkids, so what are you gonna do? The building was empty for about 3 months until I noticed some construction going on. Found out it was a local entrepreneur who owned several bars and restaurants in my city. No big deal, kinda stoked because his other places have the best burgers. The issue was that he wanted this to be more of a bar than a restaurant. That meant they would stay open until 2 a.m. on the weekends, 1 a.m. on the weekdays. I heard through the grapevine that the reason he picked that location is that everything closes early, and he would have the spot everyone in the area would go to when the other places closed up. My neighbors and I were not thrilled, but oh well. After operating a month or two, it became clear this was a bar targeting the 21 to 26-year-old demographic. That's fine, do what you do. I'm 40, so I'm not an old man and I still stay out late on occasion, but most nights I do go to bed fairly early. The issue is, the bar patrons get really loud and kinda rowdy around midnight, and they talk super loudly on the patio, which is below my window. The bar has a garage-type door they open when the weather is nice to access the patio, so when it's open I can also hear the loud music being played from inside, and I can hear it faintly through my floor. Being the diplomat I am, I went to the bar during the day one day I knew the owner would be there to chat with him about my concerns. He basically told me I could move if I didn't like it and was really dismissive. Okay then. About 2 weeks later, around 11 p.m., I was at my limit with the drunk screaming conversations happening outside. I figured that if the owner had no issue with noise, I would participate. If you can't beat 'em, join 'em sort of thing. I got out my fairly powerful Bluetooth speaker and set it up in my window on a small table I have there. I connected it to an old phone I had and started playing Jingle Bells, the Frank Sinatra version of course. I do have some class, on repeat. Then I left my place and went to play cards at a local casino until after the bar was closed. I got back at 2:30 a.m. and turned off the music and went to sleep. I repeated this 4 to 5 times a week for 3-ish more weeks, and started noticing that the garage door to the bar was closed more often than not. The only people hanging on the patio were smokers, and they didn't stay long. As long as it stayed quiet, I didn't play Jingle Bells, but when it got loud and rowdy, the music came on and stayed on until they closed. I only did my stunt on days they had the patio door open and it would get loud, never just because. My petty revenge is obviously costing him business, because they're starting to close earlier and the patio is usually empty because they keep the garage door closed. I started to feel a little bad, but he was so dismissive of me when I wanted to chat and find a solution. I didn't really have a choice besides move or suck it up. My building is rent controlled, so moving was never an option for me. I am surprised the owner or manager haven't tried to come talk to me, but maybe they don't negotiate with musical terrorists. My dad thinks I'm being petty and some of my friends agree. Some think it's hilarious and some think I'm the a-hole because I'm costing him and the workers their money. We are currently on a 10-day no holiday spirit streak, and it's been nice like it was when the old couple had the place downstairs. The update. Well, I have some things to report in the holiday spirit wars of 2025. They had a massive 4th of July party and it got way out of hand. My Sinatra defense system was powerless against the loud music and yelling that was going on. People were all over the sidewalk smoking and yelling and it was a whole thing. There was a fight, cops were called, bar shut down for the night. To those that guessed they were not approved for that sort of establishment, you were correct. Turns out there is a license here called a nightclub license or something similar you gotta have to stay open late night hours. The LCB was notified by the police, I'm guessing, and they came in soon after that and pulled their license to serve all booze pending a hearing or something. It ended up not mattering because they just closed the doors. It was reopened like the last week of August-ish. Same name, but just as a restaurant. They posted new hours and they now closed at 10 p.m. daily. Some new signs went up that seemed to be focusing on the food more than booze, so things were gonna change. A few days later, I decided to be a bit nosy and went in for lunch. I sat at the bar and chatted with the bartender. I asked him what was up with the rebrand, and he told me that the owner's business partner was taking over running their properties. Apparently, the owner that was sort of a dick to me in the first post is kind of having a tough go of it. I guess he's getting divorced and is just partying and drinking super hard to cope or whatever. Kinda made me feel bad, so I confessed to the bartender that I was the Jingle Bells bandit. He started laughing and goes, "Oh, you're that guy?" He said the previous bartender was a buddy of his and told him about it. He also told me the reason he never escalated things in our little war was because he didn't want me to complain to the city. Still have no idea why nobody else called, but my place is the one directly above the bar, so I took the worst of it. The 4th of July party was the first time I'd seen the garage doors open since my first post, so I thought we had a truce. Guy says the new managing partner told the old guy not to have the party, but he did anyway. So that's why he's managing their properties now. I don't know if he's doing them all now or what the deal is, but I won't see the other guy for a bit. So that's it. They do make a good burger though. I've been in a few times since. The new staff is super nice, and the patio below my window is open most of the time, and it's fine. It's just people having lunch and dinner talking at a normal volume and doing it sober, which is nice. My mechanic closed his shop and disappeared with my truck. My mechanic, Bill, was taking forever to swap the engine on my old project truck. I paid half of the labor cost up front and have the receipt for $350. I wasn't surprised that it took over a year with COVID and whatnot. We live in nowhere. Bill would check in with updates and I would find/purchase the parts the shop needed. I saw progress on the vehicle multiple times. They eventually got it running and said they just needed to fix the muffler to be street legal before I could pay them and pick it up. I gave them a few weeks, but never heard back. And in September 2022, I still could not get in contact with Bill. Phone was cut off and the business said permanently closed on Google. Shop was empty. Bill had previously mentioned they were trying to move to an area about 15 minutes away. I drove around looking for a mechanic shop, but there wasn't one. Locals had never heard of them. At this point, I contacted the sheriff's office and reported it stolen. The officer with the report has been completely effing useless. When someone told me they bought a car from Bill in a town over, I called and gave them that info, but they're not going to look for him. Was my truck technically stolen? Is this an arrestable offense? I feel like it's nuts to have to ask, but here we are. Edit, I don't believe it's likely he still has my truck. He has most likely parted it out, so I probably won't be getting it back one way or another. And that brings us to the update. She lives, mostly. Well, thanks to y'all's advice, I've located and retrieved my truck from Bill. After some sleuthing and the help of some of my girlfriends, I was able to find his ex-wife, who was more than happy to help me. It just so happens she manages a bar I frequent, so I did have some good rapport with her. Never forget to tip, folks. She confirmed that he lives with his girlfriend, whose trailer I recently checked out and saw sheds at. She also told me where and when he works. Fortunately, I never had to use that information because she called him and lit a fire under his ass. Bill gave me a call that afternoon and claimed he didn't inform me of his move because he'd gotten a new phone and lost my number. This had actually happened once before, so it wasn't entirely unbelievable. The man is dense as molasses. However, obviously, a sane person does not sit on someone else's car for half a year without any attempt to contact the owner. Social media? County clerk's office? Sheriff's office? No, he parked it in a scrapyard with another woman's car he was working on. This other car was stripped for parts by the yard's owner. Bill is now on the hook for that car. I did verify this much. He claimed he moved my truck to his girlfriend's property so it wouldn't also be stripped. He no longer does auto work of any kind. The world breathes a sigh of relief. I met Bill out towards the property and he showed me where he parked my truck. Parked is a strong word. I am unsure how he physically managed to get it on that hill. The tow driver said the skid steer loader next to it was likely involved. On the phone, Bill had profusely apologized, and he did the same in person. I stayed in my car while he was there. He'd lost the key, but bought me a new ignition. He did offer to continue working on it, which I laughed at. He also offered to get my $350 back. But by the look of his trailer, he and his kids already eat enough armadillos to roll up when they hear the dog bark. I've decided not to sue since I've got bigger, unrelated problems to deal with at the moment. I called the sheriff's office and informed the officer who worked so hard on the case that I had the vehicle back in my possession. They did ask how I found it, which I was delighted to respond with, "Wouldn't you like to know?" without further elaborating. The truck itself is a bit worse for wear, but mostly in one piece. It's missing a few parts, but my brand new pricey tires are still sitting in the bed, and they would have been the easiest thing to pawn off. It's currently at a highly recommended shop about an hour away getting everything hooked back up. The mechanic there owns several vehicles from the same line as mine and is excited to work on it since they're a bit rare. Guy kept cutting in line at the coffee shop, so I made his morning routine miserable. There's a coffee shop I go to every morning before work. Small place, usually has a line of 5 or 6 people. There's this one guy who would show up, see the line, and then pretend to just remember he needed to ask the barista a question. He'd walk up to the counter, ask something stupid like what size the medium is, and then conveniently just order while he was already up there. He did this at least 4 times that I witnessed. Nobody ever called him out because, confrontation before coffee isn't worth it. So I started playing the same game. Whenever I'd see him walk in and start heading toward the counter with his "I have a question" routine, I'd quickly step out of line and beat him to it. Then I'd ask the most annoying, time-consuming questions possible. What's the difference between a latte and a cappuccino again? Do you have oat milk? What about almond? Soy? Which one froths better? Can you explain your whole pastry selection? And then I'd say, "Oh, actually, let me get back in line and think about it," and go back to my spot. He'd be stuck standing there looking like an idiot. After about a week of this, he started just waiting in line like a normal person. Problem solved. Haven't seen him try to cut since. Alright guys, that's going to be it for today. Thank you for watching, I appreciate it. If you enjoyed, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe as well if you haven't already for more Reddit content like this. So I'm out of here, take care, and I'll see you next time.